almost certainly will be over 1 million. The anticipated cost of the 800,000 plus who will qualify for indefinite leave to remain over the course of the next 3 to 4 years, the anticipated cost of this group of people is a staggering £230 billion. It is
the Farage ultimatum, reform's immigration bombshell that could reshape Britain forever. Before we dive into what might be the most explosive political announcement of the year, hit that subscribe button, because UK Connors is about to take you behind the scenes of a press conference that sent shockwaves through Westminster and beyond. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Picture this, a packed press conference room in central London, cameras rolling, journalists on edge. Nigel Farage steps up to the podium with that familiar smirk, and what is about to unleash isn't just another Reform UK policy proposal. It's nothing short of a political nuclear bomb that threatens to obliterate everything we thought we knew about immigration policy in modern Britain. The man who brought us Brexit has just declared war on what is dubbed the Boris wave, and the implications are staggering. We're talking about a complete dismantling of the immigration system as we know it, with Reform UK promising to save British taxpayers a mind-bending £234 billion. Yes, you heard that right, nearly £250 billion. But here's where it gets absolutely savage. Farage isn't just talking about future policy changes. He's going nuclear on existing arrangements. Indefinite leave to remain, that golden ticket to permanent residence that hundreds of thousands of migrants have worked towards for 5 years, could be ripped away retrospectively. We're talking about potentially hundreds of thousands of people who thought they'd secured their future in Britain suddenly finding themselves back to square one, forced to reapply every 5 years under drastically tougher conditions. The audacity is breathtaking. While Keir Starmer's Labour government fumbles around with incremental changes in careful diplomatic language, Farage has just thrown diplomatic niceties out the window and declared that welfare will end for everyone who isn't a UK citizen. Full stop. No loopholes, no exceptions, no mercy. But let's dig deeper into the mechanics of this political earthquake, because the devil, as always, is in the details. The new visa system reform is proposing reads like something from a completely different era of immigration policy. We're talking about C1 level English proficiency, that's near native fluency, folks. Most university graduates don't achieve C1 level in foreign languages. The income thresholds would be significantly higher, meaning only the wealthy elite could even dream of bringing dependents. And here's where Farage shows his political cunning. He's not just targeting the usual suspects. This isn't about the boats crossing the channel that dominate tabloid headlines. No, this is about the legal migration system that Boris Johnson's government presided over, the very system that brought in what Farage calls the greatest betrayal of voters' trust in modern times. The numbers are staggering when you really break them down. According to Reform's analysis, half of these Boris wave migrants don't work and never will. We're talking about 800,000 people about to become eligible for indefinite leave to remain, with lifetime access to Britain's welfare system. The Centre for Policy Studies research that underpins Reform's claims suggest this demographic will cost taxpayers at least £234 billion, though Farage himself suggests this figure is significantly larger than even these eye-watering estimates. But here's what makes this announcement so politically explosive. It's not just about immigration, it's about class warfare. Farage is positioning this as a battle for the soul of working-class Britain, arguing that mass unskilled migration has turned the minimum wage into the maximum wage for millions of British workers. He is promising that wages would rise under Reform's proposals, directly challenging the economic orthodoxy that mass migration benefits the economy. The reaction has been swift and predictably venomous. London Mayor Sadiq Khan has called the proposals unacceptable, warning that thousands of Londoners with indefinite leave to remain are being threatened with deportation. The government's response has been equally fierce, with STARMER spokesperson dismissing Reform's plans as unrealistic, unworkable, and unfunded. Yet here's what's genuinely terrifying for the political establishment. Reform isn't just throwing around wild promises. They've done their homework. The Taxpayers Alliance has backed their proposals as long overdue, arguing that successive governments have created an immigration system that's turned Britain into a magnet for those seeking taxpayer-funded lifestyles. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has tried to dismiss Reform's cost calculations, claiming they have no basis in reality, but the damage may already be done. When you're dealing with figures in the hundreds of billions, even if reform is only half right, we're talking about sums that dwarf most government departments' entire annual budgets. The timing couldn't be more devastating for Labour. Here's a government that's already struggling with credibility on immigration, facing accusations of being soft on border control, and suddenly Farage has outflanked them completely. While Labour talks about minor tweaks to waiting periods for universal credit, reform is promising to eliminate access entirely for non-citizens. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of this announcement is reform's willingness to go retrospective. Zia Yusuf, Reform Policy Chief, hasn't minced words. They are prepared to rescind indefinite leave to remain status that's already been granted. We're talking about Operation Restoring Justice, a mass deportation program that would systematically remove established residents from the UK. The constitutional implications are staggering. Can a government really retrospectively remove legal status from hundreds of thousands of people? The legal challenges would be enormous, the human cost immense, the international diplomatic fallout catastrophic. Yet reform seems utterly unfazed by these considerations. What's perhaps most telling is how this announcement exposes a complete failure of conservative immigration policy under Boris Johnson. Farage isn't attacking Labour's record here. He's eviscerating conservatives, calling Johnson's tenure the greatest betrayal of democratic aspirations in living memory. This isn't just political opportunism. It's a calculated attempt to position reform as the only party willing to deliver what Brexit voters actually thought they were voting for. Lee Anderson, Reform spokesperson, hasn't held back, describing the current system as turning Britain into a food bank for the world at the expense of our own people. It's inflammatory language, certainly, but it taps into genuine frustrations among voters who feel their concerns about immigration have been dismissed by the political establishment for decades. The ripple effects of this announcement are already being felt across the political spectrum. Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey has refused to rule out coalition arrangements designed specifically to keep reform from power, suggesting the political establishment recognizes the existential threat Farage represents to the current consensus. What makes this moment so politically explosive is that reform isn't just opposing current policy, they're proposing to unwind decades of immigration settlement. We're talking about a complete reset of Britain's relationship with migration, potentially affecting millions of people who thought their status in the UK was secure. The international implications are equally staggering. Britain's reputation as a stable, law-abiding democracy where legal rights are respected could be shattered overnight if reform proposals were implemented. The diplomatic fallout with countries whose citizens would be affected could reshape Britain's international relationships for generations. Yet for all the sound and fury, there's a cold political calculation at work here. Farage knows exactly what he's doing. He's identified the one issue where Labour, Conservative, and Liberal Democrat positions are virtually indistinguishable, and has driven a truck through the gap. While other parties debate minor adjustments to immigration policy, reform is promising revolutionary change. The question now isn't whether these policies could be implemented. The legal and practical obstacles would be immense. The question is whether the British public is ready for this level of political disruption. If reform's polling continues to surge, we could be looking at the most dramatic political realignment since the rise of the Labour Party itself. This isn't just another policy announcement. It's a declaration of war on the entire post-war consensus on immigration and citizenship. Farage has thrown down the gauntlet, and the response from Britain's political establishment will define the next chapter of our democracy. The Boris wave, as reform calls it, may have brought nearly 4 million people to Britain on long-term visas. But the Farage wave that's building could sweep away everything we thought we knew about British politics. The only question is whether anyone else has the courage to ride it or the strength to stand against it. That's UK Connors, bringing you the political analysis that cuts through the noise. If you want to stay ahead of the curve as British politics enters its most turbulent phase in decades, make sure you're subscribed because this story is just getting started. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.